Greetings! FIFA 21 offensive AI is terrible. You could be on the wing with a central runner pushing into the space, waiting for the perfect moment to pass into him, only for your teammate to betray you and start running off towards what seemingly would be the bench. You could be having a beautiful interplay of triangular passes in the midfield building up your play while your opponent doesn't notice the dangerous run up the field, only for your teammate to inexplicably stop his run right as you were about to play the chip through ball to him. You could be regaining possession, starting up your attack and working your way to the wing, dragging away not one but two center backs while doing all of that, and your AI teammate will randomly forget that football is a game where you want to put the ball in the net, not yourself. Even better, you could be working your way towards another cutback, praying your teammate will just go into the simple and obvious space and stand there, but it turns out he'd rather take a detour and run over to lick your opponent's goalkeeper's ear. You could be working a chance around your opponent's box, have your attention taken by a teammate of yours actually making a really nice and interesting run into the space, only for it to be a meaningless distraction as he completely aborts and wastes your time completely. You once again could have entered a dangerous area, opening up a sea of space for your winger to run into, only for him to reevaluate his life and think that he's better off running towards the throw-in line and not actually get into a position to receive a pass in the obvious space. You could be on the wing with your teammate waving for you to notice his run into space, only for him to give up and completely waste your time. You could manually trigger a run into space, fail to have anything come out of it, but be pleasantly surprised that your striker decides to come back onside and make himself once again available, only for him to betray you once more and then decide to once again stand behind the center back in an offside position. So why am I making this video? Well, for one, I think the issue is obvious. These are only some clips. I could have a plethora more and I could sit here all day to show you guys, but you get the gist of it. And if more people are aware of it and speak up, there's more odds that EA will look at that feedback and say, all right, we gotta change the offensive AI. So that's always the goal with these videos. But also because if you've been following my videos, you'll know that in the midst of FIFA 20, I made what is currently arguably my most popular video, where I titled it Why FIFA Isn't Fun Anymore, and I showed you guys how compared to FIFA 17, FIFA 20 AI, offensive AI, had regressed to unimaginably dull levels. Now I know a lot of people didn't like FIFA 17 and that's completely fine, but strictly from an offensive AI standpoint, I could not be more clear about that. Strictly from that standpoint, it was the best Frostbite engine FIFA by a landslide. It's not even close. Like you see on the screen, this minimap example from that video was the one that most people clinged onto. This is what people really enjoyed about the video. But for me, the most obvious example of the difference in offensive AI between 17 and 20, and even 17 and 21, was moments before, where I showed you guys how in FIFA 17, the offensive AI was so active. It was such a living, breathing organism that the more you tried to jockey a player and mark him, the more that offensive AI player would try and open up into space and keep running away from you marking him. That's how hard it was to manually defend and keep on tracking runs. Now, I've heard people say that this isn't good. This isn't a good thing when the offensive AI is this good, as because somehow they believe that this reduces the skill gap. They claim that somehow offensive AI being good makes it too easy to attack, when in reality, offensive AI being this good adds so much more than it takes away. So let me explain. For the most part, it makes the game fun and interesting because, like I've always said, every attack is like a blank canvas, and you are the painter that can create something new every single attack. Because movements and combinations are endless, the options are endless. Nothing is repetitive. It's only as repetitive as you will make it. Imagine that, a game where passing play and finding runs is the skill gap. The skill gap is the passing, the vision, the finding the runs, the timing, not glitching through with a step over like we have this year. But most importantly, it increases the defensive skill gap at least tenfold. I don't even know, it could be infinite amounts of added skill gap if the offensive AI was that good. And you know why? Because do you know how hard it is to press the ball holder all the while tracking a plethora of dangerous movements and runs and deciding which runs are just decoys and which you need to be prioritized and which needs to be tracked and how you're going to track them? It makes defending a billion times harder. There's no excuse for offensive AI to not be at least as good as FIFA 17 levels. I'm not someone who knows how coding works, but this is what essentially I would do. You see that? FIFA 20 AI, FIFA 21 AI, delete that. Now you see the other thing, FIFA 17 AI, yeah, you see that? Copy, paste it, and just put it in the game. So where are we now? Well, we're now in the midst of FIFA 21, a game that obviously has better offensive AI than FIFA 20, but that isn't an achievement. It would have been hard to fail at that, but clearly we are nowhere near where we should be. When FIFA 21 news from EA started to drop, we were told about a lot of exciting features, but I was instantly worried, and I said this in my YouTube reviews. Too much emphasis was put on creative runs and manually triggering runs. Sure, that's neat and all that stuff, and some of these features I regularly use now, but already I knew that it felt like the base offensive AI was going to be a letdown, and it is. All of which with the excuse that you can trigger the offensive AI yourself. But simply triggering a run is nothing like the living, breathing organism that was the FIFA 17 offensive AI. More importantly though, we were told about positioning personality, how the focus was on adding deeper AI personality in positioning both offensively and defensively to ensure the ability of the football's greatest players on the virtual pitch matches up to the real world counterparts. But does that then mean you are saying Cristiano Ronaldo doesn't understand the concept of offside and standing in front of the defender? We were told about passer readiness runs, that is the understanding of when the ball possessor is ready to make a pass and therefore the offensive AI timing their run well. And I mean, are we really sure about that? We see here Neymar, one of the best cards in the game, timing his runs well for me. I mean, does it look like he is? Did I miss the memo? Do I have the wrong game installed? Am I seeing things? I don't know, guys. You guys let me know in the comments. We were told about decision making and intelligence, the ability to make faster and accurate decisions on where to move. You could pin this down to Gelson's Martin not being a good enough card, but really, is he not smart enough to go in that space? Isn't this such an obvious moment that even a bad card should abuse it? But if not, what about here? I mean, these are high-rated attackers. What are all these clips about that I've showed you at the start of the video? We were told about passing lane analysis, where essentially players will determine the next best move. But again, I just don't see it in these examples, boys. And as usual, guys, this is just one aspect of the game. I've said it before and I'll say it again. There's a whole balance of things that are needed, that is needed for a great game, at least in my opinion, from where I'm standing. And offensive AI is just one piece of the puzzle, as is second man press, as is the ability to manually intercept well, as is passing rewarding good decisions, not bad decisions, etc, etc. But nonetheless, I really hope that you guys enjoyed the video. Be sure to like and subscribe. Thank you so much for 20,000 subscribers. Keep following the channel for a wide variety of videos, not just stuff like this where we kind of like break down the flaws of the game, because hopefully one day we can just play the game for fun. Speaking of playing the game for fun, despite the state of the game, I do have some things that I'll be doing to scratch the football simulator itch that we all have. But until then, I'll catch you guys next time. Peace.